Hi, welcome to Lesson 6. In this lesson we will be dissecting the abstract reasoning section of cognitive ability tests. Abstract reasoning is probably the easier section to approach when it comes to preparing for a cognitive ability test, and this is mainly due to the fact that we do not need any background skills, and everything that has to do with wording is just out of the question. However, even an abstract reasoning question still involves some basic math. You may be asked to look for ratios between different types of shapes. You may be asked to count how many times a certain shape spins or moves from one side to the other. So just take into account that even in an abstract reasoning section, you may still be required to use some of your math skills. Let's get started. There are 5 question types in the abstract reasoning section: series, matrices, analogies, common features, and spatial awareness, which will be discussed separately in the next lesson, simply in order to make this lesson more digestible. As in previous lessons, we will review these styles through sample questions, and each question will have a time limit to keep you challenged. Shape series is a popular question type in which you're asked to fill in a missing frame in a sequence of 3 to 6 images. You may be asked to complete the last frame, and you may be asked to complete any frame in the middle of the sequence. Take 40 seconds to solve this example question. We start by isolating shapes within the frame and observing changes as we move on from left to right. In the case of the top left circle, there are no observed changes in its location or size, so we can predict that the missing frame will also include the same circle in the same place. This automatically eliminates answer option 1. Moving on to another object, I found it easy to focus on the partial circle. We can see that it rotates 90 degrees clockwise from frame 1 to frame 2, and then by another 90 degrees clockwise in frame 3. Therefore, we should expect another identical rotation, which eliminates answer option 2. Moving on to decide between answer options 3 and 4, try focusing on the top middle triangle, which seems to disappear in the second frame, and is replaced by a diamond shape in the top right corner. The diamond, in turn, disappears in frame 3 and is replaced by a pentagon. It seems like the pattern includes movement and an addition of one side each step. This allows us to choose answer option 4 as the correct answer, as it includes a hexagon in the expected cell. For the sake of practice, let's look at the last pattern as well. The bottom left hexagon disappears in the next frame and is replaced by a pentagon in the bottom middle cell, which in turn disappears and is replaced by a diamond. So we observe movement and a reduction of one side as we move from left to right. Here are some solving strategies for shape series questions. First, focus on a certain object within the frames. Track its changes throughout the frames. Look for patterns such as rotation, mirror images, increase or decrease in size and or quantity, displacement, color or shading. Then eliminate irrelevant answer options. Repeat this process until you're left with the correct answer. And don't be tempted to look at the answer options before you have at least one pattern figured out. This will help you eliminate more irrelevant answer options. Matrices are another popular question type in cognitive ability tests. Similar to the numerical series matrices, you can read the matrix through the column or through the row. Take 40 seconds to solve this question. Starting with a column, we notice that in the first column, a horizontal black arrow pointing right is present in all 3 frames. On the rightmost column, a thicker arrow is pointing left in all 3 frames. And in the middle column, it looks like an empty arrow pointing downward is repeating as well. This observation alone eliminates answer options 1 and 4. There are more patterns that can be observed in the column. For example, the addition of an empty arrow pointing downwards, which is then replaced by a black arrow pointing upwards. This brings us to choose answer option 2 as the correct answer. The main solving strategies for matrices are of course to look through the columns and the rows, and to apply the same tips from shape series. We move on to shape analogies. Similar to verbal reasoning analogies, a shape analogy describes a relationship between a pair of items. A shape analogy requires us to find a clear description of the relationship and then to maintain the relationship in the same direction. Other than that, we can apply the same tips that were provided for shape series. Take 35 seconds to answer this analogy question. The correct answer is 2. Let's isolate one pattern at a time. The filling patterns of the shapes remain fixed. Gray on top, white at the bottom right side, and stripes at the bottom left side. This already eliminates answer options 1 and 4. Moving on, the shapes have switched places, clockwise, so we need a hexagon at the bottom left corner and a partial circle at the bottom right corner, which leaves us with answer option 2. Common features is a question style in which you will be asked to find 1 or 2 images that do not belong out of 5 or 6 images. These questions sometimes pose more difficulties than the other types, simply because there is no sequence of events that one can follow throughout the frames. Here, you have to focus really good in order to find nuances between shapes and figures. Try solving the following question in 35 seconds. The correct answer is B, which is the only shape that does not include a curve. The key to solving common features problems lies in the ability to identify and speak out every tiny aspect of the image you're inspecting. See how much you can talk about the shapes in the question. Are they straight, round, closed, or open? If they're closed, do they have rounded or straight edges? How big or small are they in respect to other images in the question? Are they standing on one side or on a vertex? Do they rotate or are in constant distance from another shape? Are there touch points and overlaps? If so, how many and where? How many shapes are there? What are the ratios between the different shapes? Is there a certain filling pattern? Is the filled part always showing up in the same side? Are there three-dimensional objects? Remember, with enough practice, you'll be able to improve your performance in this topic too. This brings us to the end of the lesson. Please note, this lesson also includes a PDF with a list of curated practice resources that are available for free on the internet and are worth reviewing. Don't forget to check it out. And on to Lesson 7, which focuses on the remaining miscellaneous question styles. You are very close to completing this course. Good job!